now we're going to do our sensitivity tables. And so, the key point with the DCF is, not that we're trying to say exactly how much a company's worth. Oh, no one can go out there and say Walmart is exactly worth $117.32. That would be, insane if you could do that, because that's so exact. And, we don't, we're just, human. There's always error in everything we do. And no one can be for certain what the price of Walmart is, but we can give an estimated guess as to what the range of values we think Walmart is worth. So we want to show a range of values and say that this is what we think, here's the upside and here's the downside. In the future, just for reference, we did this in Smith, and you may do it in Apollo depending on the sector. You'll actually create 3 different DCFs, a base case, an upside case, which has higher assumptions. Maybe we change its revenue growth rate from 1.68% to 2%, and then a downside, which might be a 1% revenue growth rate. And we'll change other things about the DCF, just trying to show that, here's the best case scenario, here's the worst case scenario, and here's the range that falls into. So now we're going to do our sensitivity tables just to show the range of values we think this company could be worth. And here you have all the directions right here, but in order to show you, so this is connected to that C44 for our perpetuity growth method, our implied price. In order for this to work, this has to be hard-coded. And then this WACC also has to be hard-coded. This is just something funky that you have to do when making the sensitivity tables. So in order to hard code that WACC, I'm going to Control Copy, Control C, and then I'm going to do a paste value shortcut. So I'm going to do Alt ES V. It's going to paste the exact value in there, and now I got my 5.81% in there. Now we're going to say, what happens if we increase the perpetuity growth rate by 0.25%? How is that going to affect our valuation? In order to do that, we're going to take this 2% and make it a range of values. So we're going to add on our perpetuity step right here. And I'm going to lock that in place. That way I can just drag this over. And then this will be, the 2% minus the perpetuity step. Unfortunately, I can't drag it over like I did before, but I'll just quickly do that again. And there we go. Now we got our range. And now we're going to do the same thing for the WACC, saying, what happens if we change our WACC up or down by 1%? So yeah, we'll do that plus our WACC step and hard code that, drag it down. And this will be that minus our WACC step. And that's minus our WACC step again. And you could really do anything for these steps, but you want to do something that kind of makes sense. Like if you did a percentage point for the perpetuity growth, it'd be like 2, 3, 4. That doesn't really make sense because US GDP is not going to be growing at 4% long term. And that hasn't in the past, and we're not really expecting it to grow like that in the future. Another thing to note that I just thought of is, for that perpetuity growth rate, we're using US GDP because Walmart is an American company. Say you were, I don't know, well, let's think of an international company, Alibaba, a Chinese company. For that, you wouldn't use US GDP, you'd use China's GDP, which is a lot higher than US's GDP because Alibaba mainly serves Chinese customers, if that makes sense. Cool, so in order to get this sensitivity table, we're going to highlight all this, and then we're going to go to data, what if analysis, data table. Our row input cell is going to be that 2%, but in order for the sensitivity table to work, we have to click on it over here because this is linked to the rest of the model. Our column input is going to be this 5.81% blended WACC, and then we're going to hit OK. And in order to know that you did this correctly, the implied price you got using the 2% perpetuity growth and the 5.81% WAC should be the same as the implied price down here. And you can see here it matches 117.32, 117.32. What you're showing here is, hey, what if I keep the WAC the same and increase the perpetuity growth rate by 0.25%? Maybe I'm bullish on GDP growth for the US moving forward. That's going to make my implied price a lot bigger because you're saying Walmart's terminal value grows at a higher rate. Same thing, vice versa if you bring it down. Let's say that investors require less of a return, and we're going to bring Walmart's WAC down to be more in line with the WAC that we calculated initially. Bring that WAC down 1%, keeping the perpetuity growth rate the same. It brings our implied price up, what is that? Almost $50, which is a huge change. And it just kind of illustrates how much changing the WAC even a little bit, can affect your model. So here we're going to do the same thing. Again, we need to bring this terminal multiple over. So I'm going to do the paste value special, alt ESV, and then our WAC. We're going to do the same thing again. Control copy, alt ESV. And one sec. Cool. And so now we have this, and now we're going to do the same thing we did before. This time our terminal value multiple step will be 1 times. Hard code that, drag that over, and this is going to be minus at 1 times. Same thing here. Cool. And we're going to do the same thing we did beforehand with the WAC, adding that 1% WAC step. And just making sure. In order to see what this cell is linked to, I can hit F2. It opens the cell up. I come down here and I see the blue highlight right there. That just gives me confirmation that my implied price is, this is the right cell, that it links to that multiples method implied price. Now I'm going to do the same thing as I did before. Another shortcut to highlight this whole thing quickly. I'm going to do Control Shift down, highlights down, and then I'm just going to hit right while holding Control Shift all at the same time. And now I'm good. In order to get to data, I can do Alt A, as you see up there, W for what if analysis, T for data table, and then our row input we're going to have to do with our mouse. That's just going to be our 9.9 times multiple. Column input is going to be this blended WAC. And yeah, just to check here again, 111.65 in the center. 111.65 there. So we are good to go on our sensitivity tables. Do you have anything to add to that, Yash?
No, I think that's pretty good. The only thing I would say, we have the current share price at 143 or whatever it is, but just back in July, it was at around 119. So in terms of the actual run up that you see, there might be some other factor that we're not considering right now. So the DCF itself is actually valuing the company pretty accurately, given the fact that just 3 months ago, it was at this share price. And it kind of shows you some of these numbers that you see within the DCF affect the valuation a lot more than other numbers do. For example, like we said before, just look at the WAC. It's a $52 difference. You drop it from 50 or 5.81 to 4.81, rather than, let's say, if you jacked up the revenue to 2%, it wouldn't be as much of a difference. So that's something to be cognizant about whenever you're looking at certain numbers within the DCF. Make sure that you understand which ones have more weight, and having more precision on certain numbers is more important than other numbers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with all that was said right there.